I'd like to call the finance meeting to order Thursday, September 28th. I am Councilman Taylor. Before we start, I'd like to recognize that we have Council President Miller here, Councilwoman Peter. And Councilman John. And we have a bunch of people tonight.
So noted.
Could we do a roll call? First,
Chairwoman Helen D'Antoni is absent. Vice Chairman James Taylor.
here.
Councilor Sue Endegwa.
Here.
Councilor Miguel Sanchez.
Here.
We have 3 present, 1 absent. We have a quorum.
I forgot myself, so make sure that we use the microphone.
Please.
These are new, so I'd also like to recognize the city solicitor, Ken Jeffrey, who is at the table, and city clerks.
So noted.
Can we read number 1 into the record, please?
Item number 1, discussion related to the position of city treasurer. The following has been invited. Shamari Husband.
Shamari Husband, come up and get sworn in, please.
Yep, please raise your right hand. Do you swear under penalty of perjury that the testimony that you're about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
Please state your name for the record.
Shamari Husband.
So Shamari, you want to be the city treasurer, is that correct?
Yes.
So if you'd like, just tell us something about you and like why you want to be the city treasurer.
I'm a longtime resident of Providence. I'm a CPA for many years. I think I've watched what happened in City Hall for many years, and this would be an opportunity for me to kind of share my skill set and give back to my city and my neighbors. And this is a place that is kind of a big part of who I am. So look at it as more than a job, as an opportunity to serve, my people.
Any finance members, any questions?
More of a comment. I'm really excited that you're here, Shamari. Thank you so much for being interested in being our next city treasurer. Reading your resume, going down maybe like stalk you on LinkedIn a little bit. We're really lucky to have you, and I'd be really excited for you to be here. And so I'm really grateful that you, with the types of experience and knowledge that you have, are interested in serving the city in this way. So I just want to say thank you, and I look forward to getting to work with you.
Thank you.
Council President, council members, any questions? Comments?
Sure, may I borrow your microphone? Please, thank you very much. Could you speak a little bit to experience that you think has prepared you for this role in municipal government? I mean, I think just to take a little bit of time, right? The treasurer plays such an important role in both the day-to-day operations of the city, in working very closely with our internal auditor. And very closely with the council, making sure that as the legislative body, we ourselves are like fully informed and making sure that the public trust is well held in how we're using public money. So if you want to elaborate just a little bit on how your experience prepared you for that.
So I work both in kind of private accounting with small businesses and with bigger companies. So I managed multi-million-dollar transactions and activity, and I've also worked with small mom and pop organizations and helped them with the fair line of accounting. So I think that's really prepared me to work with a bunch of non-accountants around accounting issues to help them understand. I think you can see in my resume that I've worked with bigger companies and have handled the scale before. So I think that has prepared me in terms of the types of transactions and moving money around, and it's given me an understanding of how the accounting principles apply to everything. So and more than anything, I really want to do it. So I really want to kind of serve the people here, work with, use what I've learned to kind of bring improvements to the city and kind of fix things that I've seen wrong and some of the things I haven't seen yet.
Thank you.
Any other council members, questions, comments? No. Ms. Peterson? No, we got. Do I have a motion?
Yeah, I'd like to make a motion to nominate Shamari Husband for the election by full city council for the position of treasurer.
We don't really need a motion. This is just a discussion relative to this. This will happen on the council floor.
Okay,
Yep.
okay. So what will happen now is you'll come to the full council and they'll make a motion and we'll vote on there and you'll be in that position and never turn back. Thank you for coming and thank you.
Thank you, Shamari.
We'll see you soon.
Clerk, if you could read number 2 into the record, please.
Item number 2, communication from His Honor the Mayor dated September 1st, 2023, submitting the tentative memorandum of understanding between the City of Providence, Rhode Island, and Brown University, Providence College, Johnson and Wales University, and Rhode Island School of Design for a period of 20 years commencing in 2023 and ending 2043.
Questions, comments? Members? Yeah, about the number 2 MOU.
And when we're not meeting together.
No, we're gonna do inside.
Okay.
We're gonna vote on that in the council meetings.
Okay. I'll go first. Hold on one second, I just wrote my notes. I have a few comments that I wanted to make about this. And it pertains to both, but I'll just say it all at the moment. First, I really want to express a lot of gratitude to all the people who came out to testify at our public hearing, many of whom are here today. I think that kind of engagement is incredibly important, and I'm really grateful for this incredibly thoughtful and thorough information that we heard from the public, which includes students of the universities. I'm also really grateful to the residents of my ward. I've received well over 100 calls, emails, texts, Facebook messages, tweets, all the things from specifically my constituents who've reached out with incredibly thorough and thoughtful comments about this process and about the content of both the MOU and the MOA. Also my fellow counselors who have been asking really good questions. I also wanted to express some gratitude to the universities for coming to the table. You guys are tax exempt, like that's actually a federal designation we have nothing to do with. I'm grateful that you have come to the table, and I don't think he's here today, but Al Dahlberg spent he was at the entire public hearing. Oh, is he?
He's here. Right behind you.
You did point me. He was there for the whole public hearing, and I really respect that. And I get it. The universities are tax exempt for their properties, and all of this would be voluntary. I've also had some really good partnerships with several universities who are part of this. I can think of Johnson and Wales. I've spent a lot of time at Johnson and Wales wearing former hats as the director of food policy for the state. I have some great partnerships with some of the professors at Brown. I want to see these types of real community investments continue. And I plan to, if this moves forward, actively participate in all of those community meetings that are spelled out in this contract or this memorandum of understanding. I don't want to see what I fear will happen, that this is an excuse to do less. And I just wanted to express a few things. I'll be quick, I promise, Jim. I told you I would take too much time. I have a real discomfort with this process. I know that we have 2 branches of government. Well, we have several branches. We have 3 branches of government, but 2 involved in this process. And we have been reminded that we are actually not legally necessary for the signing of this MOU. The executive branch can do this on their own. They can legally negotiate MOUs like this and enter them without the council. Legally, there's very little that we can actually do in this process. It was brought to us for approval, and we're in a position of approve or deny without real opportunity for input. I know that the goal is for this to be something we do together and in partnership. And I'm really proud of my colleagues who took these words at face value and have really been engaging and providing really valuable feedback on the way we'd like to see this change. I'm also really grateful for all of my counselor colleagues who listened attentively to the nearly 3 hours of public testimony that we heard earlier this week. Oops, my notes are a little messed up, my bad. And I just do not really feel right about being in a position where our only option is really yes or no, given that there's so much in here. That's not a real partnership. So there is something where that can be done at us or with us, and words matter, and this is very much being done at us. I think that what's in the MOU is fine. Like, there are a lot of parts that I don't like. $7 million is nothing to sneeze at, and I'm grateful for the universities to put that forward in a voluntary way. But this is not nation leading. And I want to point out the fact that many of my constituents who have reached out to me, as well as all the students here today, they either go to Brown or other universities, and many of my constituents who called me work for various of these universities. And I really think it's telling that the biggest detractors of this are the people who are affiliated with the universities. For us to say this is nation leading and then have the people who work at these institutions call me quietly to say, I know we can do better. That's embarrassing. That's not nation leading. So I just really wanted to say that. And I know that this is voluntary. And I just also want to say, in the same way that the universities can pull out if they want to, if it doesn't go as planned, so can we. We've been reminded that this is voluntary. We all have to stay in it. There's no legal ramifications. I really appreciate the need for stability over a number of years. I get that. I've met with a lot of small businesses. They have the same kinds of needs. I represent the 15,000 people in Ward 3, and this body as a whole represents the nearly 2,000 people of Providence. Universities will always do what's in their own best interest. That's in your charter. That is what you will do. I will always do what's in the best interest of my constituents. So if legislation comes up in the future, if Representative Sanchez, Representative Morales, or future state colleague, probably one of the students here today, who will definitely run when they're done, put forward a policy that would be better deal for my constituents, I will 100% back that, regardless of what's in this MOU. And I will not miss out on the opportunity to renegotiate that. If we move this forward today without a recommendation, I feel comfortable with that because the people who can vote here today, Councilman Taylor, myself, and Councilman Sanchez, we don't have these universities in our wards. And given that I am really focused on process and fairness and people being able to have a say, I don't feel right that the councilors who have these universities in their wards would not be able to have a vote and a say going forward in what would happen. So given that, I mean, we have Councilwoman Peterson here, we have Councilman Goncalves. They are not on this committee, Councilwoman Anthony and several others who would be affected. I wouldn't feel right taking away their vote and their opportunity to comment on this. And so I just wanted to say all that. I don't feel great about this, but I do think it's better. It's okay. There are parts I don't like, but that is the difficult decision making that we have before us. And I would love for us to do better and have better partnerships between the administration and the council in the future. Thank you so much, Chairman.
Thank you. Councilman Sanchez.
So I mean, I agree with most of what my colleague here said, but I'll be honest right off the bat that I don't intend to vote today to move these forward with recommendation or with no recommendation. My biggest principle that I hold dear and tight as a legislator is being able to sleep at night with what I do as a city councilor. And if I vote this forward, I don't think I'd be able to do that tonight. With pretty much the fact that my colleague said, it came to us after 9 months of negotiation. We had a couple of weeks with it. There might have been one or two things that were added by certain folks. But in my opinion, there's been a lot of concerns and questions that really haven't been answered. And in my opinion, haven't even been tried to answer. I've raised a handful of different things that, in my opinion, are major. And I haven't really been responded in an appropriate way with those concerns. Obviously, we would like to see the dollar amount a lot higher. But that's not even one of the things that counselors have been asking. We do know the different contributions that the schools add to the city, but in the same sentence, I mean, they rely on the city of Providence to be successful financially as well. So this does not feel like a partnership between the council and the schools, maybe the administration. I mean, they negotiated 9 months. If I negotiated 9 months, I would probably definitely be feeling like it was some sort of collaboration. So I do want to thank those entities, the administration for taking the time in those 9 months to do that work. But when we have 3-4 weeks, to work on it and most of our concerns, questions aren't being answered, but that's not something that I feel comfortable moving forward. I do, commend my colleagues' remarks in the sense of, moving it forward to let everyone get an opinion on it. But I just personally can't do that today without having some of my concerns addressed at the very least. And yeah, I mean, we could go into the details, but at this point, it's probably not productive for anyone. Like my colleague was saying regarding the speech of advocating on future possible state legislation. I've gotten all sorts of results or all sorts of answers on that piece. One person saying, oh, it doesn't matter, or someone else saying, no, that does limit your speech. I don't want to take that risk or that chance going forward. I have maybe 2 terms in me as a city councilor to make a decision that's going to affect the future generation. I'm not okay with that. So, like I said, I won't be voting to move these forward. What I would like to see is to continue this and maybe 2 or 3 of the different concerns I might have be addressed and changed appropriately. I'm not sure if there's opportunity for that, but that's kind of where I'm at right now as a city councilor. And like my colleague was saying, I do want to thank everyone that has taken the time, whether you support this deal or not. This definitely gets super in the weeds, and for you to even have an opinion or thought on it, that's something that we should definitely have a lot of gratitude as representatives of the city. So, I mean, like my colleague was saying, I definitely have heard a lot from different constituents. So this is something that, I mean, that everyone agrees with. Doesn't matter where you fall on the political spectrum. We know how high taxes are for our residential folks, commercial folks too. I mean, we have one of the highest commercial rates in the country. So we do need some of these bigger property owners to start paying a little bit more. And in my opinion, in this agreement, they don't do that either. So like I said, I've given kind of where I'm at. Thank everyone for being here, and we'll see where this goes.
Comments, council president? No, council members?
You wanna go? Go first,
Council.
Thank you. Thank you for the opportunity to speak today. I think I've been pretty clear on where I stand with this. You know, to the point that Councilwoman Anderbaugh made, supporting, let's make this a little closer. Supporting legislation, can you hear me? Okay.
Yeah.
Supporting legislation at the state level by representatives from the city of Providence is wonderful, but it's literally taking our opportunity to do our jobs well right out of our hands. That's actually a very big problem for me because I wasn't elected to sit and stand by while I couldn't do anything to be effective as a leader. That's first and foremost my concern. As an elected official with a college right in the middle of it, these particular requests and provisions within the MOU directly affect everything that we do going forward. There's literally a specific provision asking or saying that security detail be considered a community contribution. I just want to repeat that a security detail that's paid for by a college or an institution be a community contribution. In my area, when there is security detail or police detail for the streets surrounding the college, it's to babysit a party. I'm not quite sure how that's contributing to my community in any way other than quelling concerns that still don't get answered and addressed. That's one. If we move forward with this as is. What it does is it limits us for 20 years. If there's ever a situation financially that we come into as a city that we cannot address in any other way than to ask our fellow, these academic institutions, we're stuck having to ask our representatives to do the work for us so that then we can act, so that then we can do work. Again, it's literally taking the opportunity of us to be able to do our jobs effectively away from us. I would recommend that we allow certain provisions to be stricken from this or removed or altered or changed in a way that benefits the city for the next 20 years and doesn't actually take away anything that we would have to be able to do going forward. We have the vitality of all of our constituents at hand, including the students that come here every single year. 23,000 a year come into the city of Providence. It's extremely important that we address certain things to make sure that we are taking care of all of them and our constituents at the same time. I'm not saying that this isn't a great starting point. I've said it from the beginning. I think this is a good opportunity for us to continue to grow on. And that's all we're asking for, is just an opportunity to make certain changes to make it work for us, for our constituents, and for the city. Thank you.
I'd like to recognize Councilman Espinal came in.
Thank you.
John Cowell with Councilman Espinal. Do you have any comments or you'd like to make? Or speak up? Councilman Espinal.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I think that every point here, it's of concern and it's well taken. And I'm not here to debate in this committee what those are and what my points of view are regarding to this. But I am the representative of one of the university that is being named there, which is Johnson Wales. And that is critical and that is extremely important to me. And I would love to have the opportunity to be able to vote on this, to debate this, to take it to the floor. I think this is critical. This is important. We're talking about over $400 million that is going to have a tremendous impact in the future of Providence. There are concerns that, there are different points of view, as I said, but I think that the entire body of the council, as this process moves forward, deserves an opportunity to have a voice, to be heard, is so tremendously impacting that all of us should have an opportunity to vote on this. So I'm just here to urge that we pass this out of committee and send it to the floor, and where the process will continue. Then at that time, if there are amendments to be made, there are discussions to be had, we can still have those, but we need to keep the process going because this is very important for our city. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilman Gunn. Council President.
Thank you. No, think of all the space. So I want to thank everyone who's here tonight and who came to the hearing, both counselors and community members who joined us for the hearing. I think, I've had multiple opportunities to also kind of say my piece on what I think about this, both of the agreements. There's two things I want to kind of add, right? One, I think that communities, cities around the country who have large nonprofit institutions are in very much the same boat, constrained by both state law and federal law that means that anything that we do is entirely voluntary. Right, so there's been a conversation about full taxation that is not a conversation that the city council, that is not a decision that the city council can change. And I think, to that point about, so the agreements are voluntary, we talk a lot about how they're voluntary for the universities. They are also voluntary for the city, right? So should those circumstances change? Should there be an opportunity to change state like state or federal law changed in some significant way, such that there was an opportunity to tax universities to have a fee structure that would be much more lucrative for some reason than what is already spelled out in the agreement. I would be the first, like genuinely the first to ask all of you for the support to work with the administration to make this agreement null and void. Right, like I can't emphasize that enough. So this part about limiting restricting speech, I just wanted to address a little bit because I haven't had a chance to do that publicly. One, there's no agreement that we can make that restrict any single one of our rights as private citizens to free speech. That's not a thing that's happening. Two, this is voluntary agreement for all of us, right? And so if there are bigger opportunities, better opportunities, through taxation or other means at the General Assembly or the federal level, I would be the first to say this voluntary agreement is no longer serving us, right? That's really the main thing I wanted to address. We talk a lot about how this agreement stacks up comparatively to others around the country. Part of the thing about what makes that challenging is that they're all voluntary agreements. They all have kind of different benchmarks. There's two things I want to bring up though. So in Boston, they set a target of a 25% contribution from all of their nonprofit institutions. And right now, I can't remember if it's just universities or everyone. I think it's everyone, hospitals as well. That is a target. That is a great target. It has not been met in any year that I'm aware of. They also have an agreement where the community benefits. So you can do a community benefit in Boston if you're no, that's not in Boston. I was going to say MIT. Thank you for an actual Boston, not Somerville or Cambridge University example. If you're Boston College, you can have a community benefit. Could be a donation, could be a park, whatever it is, and that actually detracts from the dollar amount that you're paying into the city every year. This agreement doesn't do that, right? It's a dollar for dollar match between what's in the MOU and what is on the community benefit side. That's one of the kind of national comparison pieces. The other, so I was really excited when the Yale New Haven agreement happened. There's a lot to say about the Yale New Haven agreement in comparison to this one that I think is worth noting. In particular, Yale has a massive endowment, $41 billion. The four universities combined, I bet there's someone in this room who can correct me if I'm misspeaking, but I think it's lands at somewhere around like 7 close to 8. Less than 10.
Yeah.
As a percentage of the endowments for all four universities, this agreement is better than what's happening in New Haven. So I'm not saying that we are in a perfect situation and full taxation is not the right thing. I am saying that given our circumstance, I think the universities have put something on the table that we should consider and that we should consider as a full body. So I am asking for this committee to send back to the council floor and just sharing my colleagues with the rest of them. So thank you.
Thank you, Councilman Gonzalez.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I do want to affirm that as well. I think having the opportunity to have the full body vote on it is the appropriate mechanism. It's no secret how I have felt about the large tax exempt institutions across the city, and particularly their relationship with our neighborhoods. But I do think that this is a step in the right direction. Having the opportunity to vote on this is the right thing to do. And I think it's an extraordinary opportunity for us to move this forward, considering the amount of resources that are going to be contributed to the city of Providence. Just want to reiterate, over $223 million that are going to be contributed to the city 442 million in community contributions. And look, I'll be frank, you know, having seen the challenges in my neighborhood over the last several decades as a result of the growth and expansion of large tax exempt institutions has been really, really hard. You know, we have, and I'm not going to name any of the institutions in particular, but, you know, I would say that growth broadly across the city has real implications, which many of us have acknowledged today. And those are serious concerns, and I hope that we can continue to address those. But I do think that we shouldn't squander the opportunity to move the city forward with these voluntary contributions that, again, are voluntary. There is nothing that compels us or gives us the legal authority to be able to tax these institutions more. And as I've talked to some of my neighbors, I think they have largely been supportive of the fact that we are going to receive more than we otherwise would have received had we not struck this agreement. So I think we should give the entire body an opportunity to vote on this. And I also want to affirm, you know, those who have come out, whether in opposition or in support, to make sure that their voices are heard. But ultimately, this is about leadership, and I hope that we can continue to exhibit that leadership and do what's going to help the city to address the myriad of issues that we have, many of them particularly financial. And I look forward to engaging with my colleagues on that over the coming weeks.
Sure.
I also just want to acknowledge that, and thank the administration and coordinators still behind me. Yeah. I didn't want to do another, when we passed the budget in June, we did say, you know, there were a number of things that there was not enough funding for the budget that we all collectively agreed were important. A number of positions, I'm forgetting what that number is, but it was a large number of positions that we agreed, these are important. We want to see a graffiti task force, we want to see our sidewalks paved, we want to see a number of things. There wasn't money in the budget, and we asked, you know, we basically said, you know, if you negotiate a pilot large enough to cover these, great, go for it. But until then, there's no money in the budget. This is a hard decision to make. And they did that. This pilot does cover those positions, probably a little bit more as well. And so just honoring that commitment and letting this go to the full body, that was the what we said at that time was you cannot hire these until we have the funding, and this would provide that funding. I don't know about it.
Anyone else? I'd just like to say a few words. I'll keep it short. So, I'd like to thank, obviously, the administration, Mike, Courtney, the mayor, his staff, and also the colleges for coming to the table. They didn't have to come to the table, but they did come to the table, and I have to take it that it's the best deal that they came up with. I wasn't there. I don't want a Monday morning quarterback, but I think it's the best deal that they came up with. And I think it's, you know, it's a 20-year deal. But as I sit and listen to everybody, I remember being on the fire department 20 years ago, they had this deal before. It was 20 years ago that this deal started. I heard a lot of testimony. I'd like to thank everyone from Brown and everybody who showed up to this testimony, because they were compassionate about their testimony, whether it was for or against. They said their points, and as young children, not children, but I mean young in college, you know, when I went to college, I wasn't thinking coming to a city council meeting. I went to PC and went to the PC games and enjoyed it. And, but I, you know, I'd like to thank, you know, them for, coming out with your compassion. But, you know, we heard a lot of testimony that it is voluntary. The mayor, the administration, especially with this MOU, could have just signed it and, you know, that's it. We don't have a voice in it. I thank the mayor for letting us have a voice. Because he's trying to, you know, show that the council and the city can work together, and I hope we can do that in the future. We just came off of raising taxes, where we have 7 new council people that were kind of thrown into the fire and said, you know, you gotta raise taxes. We've got a lot of calls, including myself, who's been here my 2nd term. I know the council president, everybody was getting phone calls about taxes, and I don't want to raise taxes again. Not this term if we can help it. And if we don't take this money, you know, it's $223 million. And I think, you know, it's not can they do more? I don't know. I'm gonna go back because I don't know, as I get older, I guess I'm getting sentimental. I'm thinking about what my father used to say. He always had like little quirky sayings. And one of them I just say was, you always have to laugh to keep from crying. So telling a 5-year-old or a 6-year-old that, I was like, what are you talking about? But one he always used to say, and I actually had him explain it to me, was a bird in the hand is worth 2 in the bush. So at 8 years old, my father saying that, I'm like, what does that mean? You know what I mean? As I got older, you know, I asked, and he was really talking about life in general. It's better to be content with what you have than to risk losing everything by seeking more. And that's how I feel that we are now. If we try to seek more, the institutions can just walk away and say, you know what, we're not going to do it. So at this time, I think, in my opinion, and my colleagues have also said that I think this issue is too important to not allow the full council to vote on the matter. So as the chair,
Vice Chair, can I just ask a quick question?
Sure.
Just to follow up on what you're saying, I don't think any of us is asking is being or seeking more. I think what we're asking is for a little bit more research, or just having certain provisions maybe altered or removed in an effort to make it safer for the city. Is there an opportunity for the potential of removing or striking certain provisions within this and it's not asking for more. It's simply just saying this puts the city in a little bit more of a safer position for the next 20 years. Is there an opportunity for that?
What I meant by saying that, by seeking more, it's the testimony that I heard was everybody said Brown can pay more. These colleges can pay more. They can do more. I've heard that from some of the colleagues, maybe not here. But that's why I made that comment. So, I mean, at this time, like I said, I think it's an important issue that we need to allow the full council to vote on and discuss and take it through the motions, whether it passes at that point in time. I don't know. But I mean, at this time, as the chair, I'd like to entertain a motion to refer this matter to the full city council without a recommendation.
I would make a motion to refer this to the council without a recommendation.
So I have a second. There is no second. I will second that motion. So we have a motion and a second, right, clerk?
That's correct.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed?
Nay.
So the matter passes 2-1. That's correct.
That is correct.
So now we're going to go to clerk, if you could read number 3 into the record.
Item number 3, communication from His Honor, the Mayor, dated September 1st, 2023, submitting the tentative memorandum of agreement between the City of Providence, Rhode Island, and Brown University for a period of 10 years commencing in 2024 and ending in 2034.
Members? Oh, wait a minute, hold on. So I understand there are some amendments.
Substitution.
We need one.
We do need a motion to have it.
So I'd like to have a motion to, what do we have? like to have a motion to substitute item, we'll call it 3A, is that okay?
Yes.
So I'd like to have a motion to substitute item 3A for item 3. Second? I'll second that. All those in favor? All those in favor for substituting 3A? Aye. All those opposed? Oh, and my head.
No, I'm just watching everyone, so I make sure I get the right motions.
Okay, so they, you made
I
a
said,
motion,
made
I
a motion,
seconded it.
seconded.
Yeah, and then you passed all those in favor, you said aye, I said aye,
I said,
and all opposed.
Thank you.
So you're giving me a signal over.
No, I
I was watching my coat, I didn't know if I.
can't see with my glasses on.
Oh, all right.
So at this time, I would ask, Courtney to come up and, state the amendments on the record, if you could explain that, please. The amendment.
Thank you, Chairman and committee members. So there are 3 changes to this version of the MOA. The first is, you'll recall the previous version called for the administration support on the advance of 5 blocks in the city. That has been changed to 4 blocks. The block on Cushing has been removed, and the related payment conditions have been removed. The parking license condition has been extended by 10 years. So previously it went to 2043, it now goes to 2053. And then the third change is in the section around credits, and in the third credit area, which is the potential credit where Brown would receive 100% reduction for an amount of their payment agreed upon by the city, in exchange for them giving us that money in advance for development projects. We've further clarified that the decision to use that credit would be made in collaboration between the administration and the city councilor in whose ward the project is proposed to take place.
Okay, first of all, I'm gonna put the solicitor on the, for a minute.
Okay,
Mr. Solicitor, have you had the opportunity to review the proposed amendment?
yes, I have, Mr. Chair.
And in your opinion, legal opinion that I don't have, and we don't have, is the proposed amendments, are they technical in nature?
Yes, they are.
And can you explain to the members, the newer members of the committee and newer members of the council, the importance of your opinion on them being technical?
Well, it would just require this committee to accept the substitution, which they have, and then this is ready to be voted on. Either to recommend or to deny. So I don't see anything that prohibits a discussion and a vote on this.
Okay, so no violation of open meetings.
I don't see, I mean, we substitute regularly.
Yeah.
For a number of things.
Okay.
And this would be no different than any other matter. Since I've been, working for the city and chairing, staffing this committee.
Okay.
It's a regular substitute.
It's important issues. I just want to make sure my colleagues, the newer colleagues and myself want to make sure that we're doing everything correctly.
It's consistent with prior practice.
Okay. So at this time, I'd like to open up for questions, members.
Thank you, Chairman. Chief Hawkins, can you explain the rationale for the parking license change?
So the change with Cushing and the parking license change were made together and proposed by Brown, based on feedback that I understand they heard in community meetings. I think they previously acknowledged in community that they didn't actually have a use for Cushing, and so I believe it was their perspective that the extension of the parking license was more important than Cushing, and the administration didn't have any concerns with that.
And do we have information about like what value the parking license has for Brown or for the city? Like what, have we done any sort of like economic analysis of that?
No, this has been a long-standing condition that was based in the 2012 MOA. It just continues it for those 250 parking spots. We have heard that in some ways, so first of all, the city still is able to enforce parking in those spots. So the PEOs ensure that people are complying and the city is allowed to issue violations if they're not. It also means that people at Brown who need parking aren't having to move their cars every 2 hours, so it reduces congestion on the streets and, people idling, looking for parking. It also reduces, pressure on any kind of the university to potentially look for the creation of more surface parking, which we wouldn't want them to do. And given the feedback we heard, I think they heard from neighborhood associations about how this is working so far, we didn't have further concerns.
I'd like to recognize Councilman Royce. Any more questions? Councilwoman Angela?
No, that was my question.
Councilman Taylor?
Thank you, Chairman. It's not really a question, just more of a comment. I also don't feel comfortable moving this agreement forward today. It was not on the docket for the public hearing, so I think it does deserve its own public hearing. I know that we did allow people to speak on both, but I think it is a disservice to not publicize that as an entity. So with that being said, I would like to make a motion to continue this.
Motion's been made. Any second?
Just the MRO part,
Yeah.
I think for a minute.
Sure.
Ask the council a question.
Sure.
Is the idea that we would take this up at our next finance meeting, or that this would then be have its own, what would the plan be?
Yes, I think that's something that we can discuss as a body and the chairman, would like for it to be publicized, with whether that's in the finance meeting, not having to create a whole separate public hearing, but maybe allowing public comment in the next finance meeting, I think would be a little bit more comfortable for myself.
That's one more question, and this is for Chief Hawkins. When you presented the MOA at the finance meeting, whenever that was, there was, time is fluid. There was conversation that any provisions many of the provisions in this would still need to go through the CPC process. And is that still true? So there would still be a public engagement process through the city plan commission?
That's true.
Okay, so there would still be opportunity for some public comment.
And if I could also just add that these agreements were presented to you together because the administration does believe that the value of these agreements together is what makes for the agreement that we are, proud and stand behind. And so considering them separately does put at risk the value of them together. Because an institution could in theory say, never mind, the MOU is done. We don't want the MOU.
Thank you, Chief. Yeah, no, I just 100% disagree with that. I think if it was together, it would somewhat be in the same agreement. It's been very clear, I think, by the city solicitor that this is a transactional agreement, which Brown would be getting land. That I feel like there's a lot of questions in terms of the value of the land and in terms of what the plan is for the land. I will take a moment and thank the representatives from Brown, because they did mention or gave examples of the last agreement and what they did do with the land. But with that being said, I think it's very, just in my opinion, disingenuous to say they're one agreement, or that they should be treated as one agreement when just physically they're two separate agreements, with one being an MOU and one being an MOA. But that's just my opinion.
If I could just respond to that, it wouldn't be appropriate to ask the other three institutions to be a party to an agreement between the city and Brown, which is why they're separated. As it relates to the value of the 4 blocks that will be conveyed, the commercial value as appraised by a commercial appraiser is less than $1 million. And all of that will be considered in the CPC process, which will, provide for public comment, and we'll ask Brown to further, commit to how the property is being used, et cetera.
So none of the.
Go ahead.
So none of the streets or the extension of parking would be transferred in owner control until after the full CPC process, which includes another vote by council, basically.
Right.
Okay.
I don't I don't think the parking license condition has to go through.
Okay, so just the street
But
part.
the zoning changes and the CPC change, the street parts.
Okay, so it all go through CPC and then come back to
Yes,
us.
and if they are not approved through that process,
Then they're
you
not
have to
approved.
reopen this agreement and renegotiate with the institution, which is another reason why there's.
Just a note quick. Courtney. The rest of, I'm sorry. Courtney, I'm sorry. Chief.
I
Courtney.
either you call Courtney or Amelia's.
All right. Amelia's mom. So, just to clear up, in the last 20 years, Brown University has taken some streets and blocks, correct?
That's
Be
correct,
the same procedure,
exactly.
but this is just written in an MOA where the other one wasn't.
There were street conveyances in previous MOAs also,
In the last
in the last two versions.
20 years or whatever. Okay. And how many, do they take about the same 4 blocks that they had to
I
get?
don't want,
Don't know.
I don't want to say.
All right. Any other comments? I mean, we have a motion on the floor, but I just want to, again, I will. If we do this, like I said, I think it's important that we should, as a council, vote on it. It was given to us as an MOU and MOA. People, I did not stop, I did not stop anybody from talking in the meeting if they came up with MOA. I think it was vetted. And most of the stuff that I heard was the MOU, they didn't like because there wasn't enough money. Well, it was, the MOA, I really didn't hear a lot, or even the people that did bring it up. Again, I go back to my thing, better be content with what we have and risk losing everything. Because if we say no, there's no guarantee that, the college, Brown University could do that and say, we're just gonna do the MOU and forget the MOA, and then where do we stand? So that's just my opinion.
Like I gotta come back and you quote or something.
Yeah.
I'm just, no, Councilman Godfrey.
And I heard the chief operating officer say that very clearly, but I also like a legal opinion. So from a legality perspective, if we do not pass these together out of committee tonight, that could potentially put this entire thing at risk. Correct?
Potentially, yes.
Yes, so is that, so
That's my
you're
understanding,
concurring
yes.
with that
And
position?
and conferring with the city solicitor, Jeff Dana, also, yes.
Thank you.
Councilman Espinoff, did you have a question?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. I really have not heard any compelling argument as to why they should not be together, why one of them should be held back. If you're still gonna go to CPC, this part, and also through zoning. So there's still more vetting that's gonna go through. So I really do see that. I really think that these two pieces need to be to move together. I don't, that's the way it was negotiated. That's the way it should move forward. And again, we still have to have additional opportunities to debate on this MOA. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilman Peterson?
Not yet.
Councilman Rice?
I'll share my thoughts. I do believe that this should be, to be clear, we had mostly let the public know that the recent public hearing was going to be on the MOU. So some folks from the public did comment on the MOA, but it was mostly the MOU. So because it's a financial transaction, and because there are concerning provisions in there, this should be scrutinized separately, in my opinion. I think we're doing a disservice to the public if this is not a separate public hearing. So.
Council President? Any questions?
Chairman, can I make one more clarify one more thing? The majority of I keep hearing that this is a transaction. The majority of what is transacted or support for in this could be achieved through just going to the CPC or just going to the zoning. There doesn't actually need to be another agreement. Brown could petition the CPC for the conveyance of 4 blocks. Happens all the time. Yeah. So even if you say like, oh, well, we know they really want these things, they could still achieve 75% of what's in this document and not make any of these payments through traditional public through the traditional audit process. So I just want to make sure that's. all.
And during the CPC process, anybody who is opposed or for it can come out and voice their opinion at that point in time, so
That's correct.
So, again, I'm gonna go with Councilman Espinal, saying I think as council people, we have time to vet it and talk about it before. And the people, for or against, it's kind of like when they do, a liquor license within 200 feet. You have people come out, they might not want a liquor store, or they might not want a bar in their neighborhood. So they come out in opposition of it, and then, it's, the CPC has to decide at that point in time. So it's not a done deal with the 4 properties listed in here as far as doing it, because the public still has an avenue to go out, especially when it comes up to the CPC to discuss that issue. We all have, I know I have been for liquor stores and near schools or whatever, you know what I mean? Stores. Right, so, anybody else? Councilwoman Peterson?
Chief Hawkins, can you talk a little bit about the drawdown or the 50% reduction of? I was a little bit confused as to how it works in here.
Yeah.
Would you be able to just kind of break it down for me?
Yeah, so for the 50% credits, one is for the university's, majority participation in new commercial development as a leaseholder. One is the university's return of property to the commercial tax rolls. For each of those, for every $1 of new commercial tax revenue that comes onto the tax rolls, the university's payment can be reduced by 50 cents. So in the instance that those two credits are used, the city will actually result in getting more money because we'll have the new $1 and the 50 cents in credit.
Just to follow up, in conversation, in negotiation, there hasn't been a potential or discussion of any potential properties that could come back? Okay.
Any other question?
Just a quick comment. I think if there weren't the CPC process, I would 100% want us to for this, but given that there is the CPC process, and to Chief Hawkins' point, like they could actually just go through that process now and pay us nothing, and might actually just get through that way. I would just request that, as the council and also the administration, that you really help us advertise that CPC meeting. I think sometimes those go real under the radar. And so if we can make sure that that's really noticed in a way that, we all know when that conversation is happening, and we can make sure our constituents know. I would just make that request.
Yeah, and I'm sorry to interrupt, but I wanted to make sure that this is true before I said this. Through the CPC process, it also then comes back to the council.
Yeah.
Public Works and the full council for them. So in addition to that, there would be public advertising for those as part of that process.
And I can affirm that I know some of these are in Ward 1. We're pretty active in terms of our communication with constituents, so we'll let them know about the CPC processes.
It'll also come back to the ordinance committee, to the zoning and CPC, to do their work. So there is a process that's in place where all the councilors and the public at large will have an opportunity to speak about this, and at that point, we'll also have a public hearing on it.
Okay.
So this does not take away from the process.
Any other questions, comments? No, so we have a motion on the floor, you thought about it? No? Well, I don't know. Okay, so at this time, I'd like to entertain a motion to refer this matter to the full city council without a recommendation.
As amended.
As amended, thank you.
With the assist, I'll make the motion.
Is there a second? I'll second it. All those in favor? Aye. All those opposed?
Nay.
Passes. Is there any other business?
There is not, Mr. Chair.
Business, hearing no business, can I entertain a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
I'll second that one. Chair, that call in favor, aye. Opposed, thank you, everyone.